Welcome to the Empowered Spirit Show. This is your host, Terry Ann Hyman. I'll explore the connection to the human spirit in a way that helps to navigate your life, including crisis. I am passionate about helping you to open up to your intuition and the metaphysical world of spirit to find your confidence in your own inner guidance. Take a pause, be inspired, learn ways to show up focused, centered, and more dynamic in your everyday life.
Welcome back to the Empowered Spirit Show. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining me today. This episode is being sponsored by Ritual and Shelter. Are you looking for a magical place to shop and hold space? Check out Ritual and Shelter online or in Homewood, Alabama. Browse through their bookshelves covering topics such as energy healing, crystal healing, Reiki, chakras, auras, the Akashic Records, shadow work, astrology, and earth-based healing. You can also find herbal teas and tinctures alongside their crystals and oils to help establish a mindful mindset and fluid ambience before meditation, ritual work, and reflection. Ritual and Shelter is dedicated to providing one-on-one, in-depth conversations with customers to help them find the most efficient healing methods and resources that match their unique interest and energy. They offer tarot sessions, Reiki, sound bowl, and crystal healing, and now they are offering witch consultations. Visit ritualshelter.com to book an appointment and bring peace back to the body, mind, and spirit. You can also find them on Instagram at Ritual Shelter Shop, as well as Pinterest at Ritual Plus Shelter. So as I go to record this podcast today, we find ourselves in so many changes, so many extremes, emotionally, cosmically, politically, and spiritually. We really are opening up to big changes going on in our society. How are you handling it? What are you noticing? What are you feeling? Right? Most of us don't really like change. Would you agree? Most of us kind of resist it, yet we born to change. We wake up as a little baby, right? We come into the world as a little baby, and then we're growing and changing every day. But yet the ego, the intellect starts to reject it, get fearful of it. And how we deal with it is really important. How we are able to approach change, different ways of thinking, opening up our consciousness is really key. It's key to how we can open up and live our lives. I know sometimes we can get lost. I can too, right? And we can create all these behaviors and patterns based on fears and shadows and stuff them down, can't deal with it. And then we're kind of living over here, trying to figure out what the heck happened, right? Embracing new ways of thinking and expanding our consciousness is very important. So we do have the new moon in Aquarius coming in. And it's an air element, but Aquarius is known to break up the norm, consciousness, social consciousness. So yeah, we're going to see a lot of things starting to happen very quickly. You know, and as we say down south, buckle up, buttercup. But what we're also saying spiritually, grounding, centering, slowing down so that you can process these changes, find ways to work with them instead of getting over here, but really digging within yourself. Finding the new tools, understanding more about your soul energy, using what I call rites, Reiki, intuition, tarot, EFT, stones and crystals, using these kind of tools and techniques will fill you up with a little more amusement, understanding, and grace on your soul. It is a time to take a leap in consciousness. I've been talking about this for so long, expanding, opening up, even more passionate now. Helping you find ways that you can look at these changes, look at these shadows, look at these emotions with grace, with love, without judgment. As humans, we want to judge everything. We really do. But all of these things are created to help you recognize there is a purpose, there is a path, there's an evolution of your soul going on right now. So as we move through all of these changes, cosmically, all around us, everything, now is the time to clean up your energy with an energy clearing session. Remove the excess debris. You could schedule one in person or virtual. I have soul sessions, I have energy healing, tapping, so many ways that I talk about to get you out of the fears, to help you open up to those deeper resources of who you truly are. I also offer private mentoring. Let us get together one-on-one, go deep into the soul, learn the tools to activate your radiance, to open up your light, your intuition, so that you can move through all these different transitions and find yourself at a new place, standing up taller, saying what you believe, changing your job, feeling happier and more joy in your everyday life. Very important right now. I'll put the links for both in the show notes. So in today's episode, I welcome back to the show Dr. Joy Gray, aka Granddaughter Crow. What a great conversation we had. She has a brand new book out. We're going to talk about shamanism and the shadow. And in this episode, we get into what are shadows? How can we work with them? We get into the medicine wheel, the animal totems, and ways in which you can use many of the tools and techniques she outlines in her books to help you embrace this shadow part, to shine light so that you can heal and grow and feel strong about your path right now. Before we get into the interview, let's take a moment to pause and center and set an intention for where you are right now. So wherever you are, if you can, close your eyes. Taking a nice deep inhale, breathing up the body. And as you exhale, breathe all the way back down, slowing down, centering. Inhaling, breathing up the body. And as you exhale, call all your energy into you. Call it in. As we begin to slow down, we call in all these sacred elements to honor them within and all around us. We call in the element of fire, which helps us to go within, to feel our soul's energy. We allow the element to turn into air. We notice it with the smoke, the smell, clearing the space, clearing the mind. We call in the element of water to wash all through us, opening the heart, letting those emotions flow, activating third eye energy. We call in the element of earth, grounding, centering, honoring the elements all around us, asking for balance, activating that deep, universal energy. Inhale, breathing up the body. And as you exhale, dropping right into the heart, right into the deepest part of your heart. Feel that connection, your spirit and the greater spirit. Know that you are loved, guided, protected. Feeling all this energy coming in around us. As we activate this energy right here, right now, noticing where you are on this great wheel of life. Where I am, we find ourselves in the season of winter. As I teach in the direction of the north, we go deep within the soul. We honor our dreams and our visions. We call in the wisdom of our elders, bringing this forward for us, calling in the directions to the north, the east, the south, and the west, above you, below you, right into the very center, deep into your heart, setting an intention for your path, your light. Hear and feel and see and know this intention. And as you take that next breath, exhale right through your heart, setting that vibration for you. Taking another deep inhale and exhale all the way down, starting to ground the energy. Allow the heart to be open. Feel the illumination of your third eye. And as you're ready, blinking the eyes back open, coming back. So today we welcome back Granddaughter Crow, also known as Dr. Joy Gray. She holds a doctorate in leadership, Internationally recognized as a medicine woman, she comes from a long line of spiritual leaders as a member of the Navajo Nation. She is an international award winning author. In 2024, she gives respect to her lineage as an honored listee in Who's Who in America. Additionally, she is a member of the Delta Mu Delta Honor International Society in Business due to her academic achievements. Voted in as Women of the Year 2015 by the National Association of Professional Women. She is the author of several books: Journey of the Soul, Wisdom of the Natural World, Belief, Being, and Beyond, which we interviewed her last time for, and now her newest release, Shamanism and Your Shadow. She is truly a conduit for wisdom and transformation between the Western and Native worlds. More than that, she has dedicated her life to inspiring, encouraging, and empowering individuals to be their authenticity. So let us welcome Granddaughter Crow back to the show. Welcome, Granddaughter Crow.
Thank you. It is so nice to spend some time with you again.
I'm very grateful to see you again, too. And I love this whole new book that you've come out with, Shamanism and Shadow Work. Right? I think it's really important. And you're getting into using animal guides and healing your inner self. And you talk about the medicine wheel, which I love, as I shared with you before, too. Yeah. So as we begin, just let our listeners know a little bit about what led you to writing this book right now.
Absolutely. I think that when the pandemic hit and we started to have to social distance and shelter in place and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, lots of different lockdowns at different times, I saw that a lot of people stopped being distracted by their normal everyday life, running to the store, running to the movies, running to go eat and play and all of these things, which is really great, but we lost that distraction and a lot of us went within. And then when we go within and we sit in silence, all of a sudden, oh gosh, now it's our little fears come up, our insecurities come up, our shadow comes up. And so I'm like, this is the perfect time to assist the people who are walking the walk and talking the talk to have a little bit of support from a shaman and the medicine wheel to organically move through shadow work.
It does come up. It does come up. And so sometimes what happens is we start creating behaviors based on those shadows to shut them back down. Let's actually ask the question, what is a shadow?
Yeah, so the word shadow and shadow side is coined by Carl Jung, and so it's psychology, and it really kind of, in short, kind of talks about those aspects of ourself that we hide from society and also hide from ourself.
That's the key word too, is hide, right? Yeah. And so many of us don't want to look at them. And then we start creating those behaviors and then we start believing those behaviors that we created, right? And we get so far out. So I love that whole idea of let's bring it in. It is the work I do too. Like bring it in. Let's really go deep and let's examine. Because as I know from the work I do and helping my clients, I'm sure you do too, it's like when we bring light to the shadows, they're not so dark anymore.
Right. That's right. And not only that, Terry, there are also hidden treasures in those places of being able to go, why was I hiding that piece of myself? Maybe it was because when I was young, I was told that this, or maybe when I was a teenager, I was told that, I'm too tall, or maybe, all of these different even little pressures that come in. And then we're finally like, when we light that shadow up organically, then we find treasures that we're like, why did I hide myself from myself? You know?
Right. Yeah. And then we start creating other imprints of similar energy. right? We have something that happened and then something else similar and something else similar. And with the work I do, we even can go back to past life. I know I've been working through some of mine, and it's like, oh my gosh, in fact, I'm going to write an article like, what happens when you don't like one of your past lives, right? But it does energetically hold energy within us and our DNA. So I think, the idea of opening up more about the shadow work like you're doing is like so needed right now.
And I love, Terry, that you brought up that it can be residual from past lives
Residual, good
because,
word.
yeah, I also in the book mentioned that maybe some of the trauma in the shadow, yes, I simultaneously say that a lot of times our trauma will cause an aspect of ourself to either hide or create a shadow. So I kind of go into that, but some of it is through our DNA as well. And just as a little example, as a red body of the Navajo Nation, there is some of my shadow that has to do with the oppression and the, trying to annihilate my people. And now it's just like, okay, so am I allowed to get mad? Where do I belong in society? Da 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 da. All of these different aspects. So yeah, it can residual effect all the way through.
It can look at what's going on in the Middle East. So I have the Ashkenazic Jewish part of me growing up in the South, right, in the 60s, and I have that. And now look with the war coming, hopefully cease fire, right, that kind of thing. And so we can move forward with it, but then we still carry some of those imprints as well. So, yes, beautiful understanding. And yes, just even for your own culture and what I have learned and just through study, really, I carry some, more so Lakota. And then for my local area, I'm deep rooted in the South, the Creek. So I do carry that through my lineage. But your people are beautiful, but yet look at what has happened. Right. And look at what all you've gone through to help and to serve and to overcome these things and to bring this forward. Beautiful. Yeah. So evidence that it works for sure. Now let's talk about the medicine wheel. Tell us your understanding of the medicine wheel.
So the medicine wheel is very traditional in many different walks of life, to include even Europe. And I mean, sometimes I even look at Stonehenge as a form of a
Mm,
medicine wheel. It's basically this
that
understanding of being a part of drawing a circle around yourself and kind of standing in the middle so that your energy isn't like dispersed all over the place, but it kind of comes full center, and then you can turn and move within that sacred place of what I would say intention, beauty, magic, whatever else you decide to add to your medicine wheel. So, in short, that's kind of what a medicine wheel is. So, feel at liberty to work with a medicine wheel. But in this book, it was really important to be able to do work with a medicine wheel because it allows for the complete cycle of the process, where you see something in the north, you see something in the east, you see something in the south, and you just walk the whole path to end up where you began, but on a deeper level.
it is a spiritual way of looking at time. It's also a way I like to look at it as well. Yeah.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, I have one that I walk that I actually have to tend to and pull weeds and walk in each season, right? So that's one way. What are other ways that you individually or people that are listening, like what are ways that they can also activate this energy? Is it just in the imaginary, in the ethereal? How else would you suggest that?
Yeah, I think that, well, I come from a school of thought about the four bodies of existence, be it physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual.
Yes.
So a medicine wheel is on all of those levels. You talk about it being on a physical level, but as you move through it, your mind is there, your emotions are there, and your spirit is there. So, but people, if you don't have a medicine wheel, you can create it in your mind, in your room, in your sacred space, and it's just basically like sitting down and drawing a beautiful circle around you and appreciating and breathing into being in the centerness. And I believe that it goes throughout space and time. So it's not just the four bodies, right? It's not just physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. I believe that it calms our spirit down, even as a color collective community working with a medicine wheel together helps draw us together and centers and rebalances us.
It does calm our spirit down. Yeah. And I think, one of the things that you can do right there in the center too, whether it's on the physical land or in your space, is that soul to soul, right? Spirit, come in and connect with the deeper part of your soul and the greater spirit and the greater soul and receive the messages that we need. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's kind of like what I would say is a very tactile way of understanding it. It's kind of like your kitchen, where all of your focus is right there, and you're going to create something. You're going to make something. And so you work with that as a place to do your magic, to do your meditation, to cook your meals. And it's the same thing on a different level. So it's very, I mean, we're all familiar with it. We just use different words for what it is.
Yeah, and the whole idea of sacred circle, right? We all have it's the same concept, the same idea many times as humans, and we look with that calendar, flip it over, and we tend to be linear. So as you're really saying, it is a circular, it is that coming around, coming around. Yeah. Now you go into the animal totems
Yes.
to help with the shadows. Tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So, there's a lot of different ways that you can work with your shadow, even if you don't have a spiritual path, or you can go to a psychologist and you talk about your shadow and work through it. So there is a lot of psychology in it, but there's also this taboo, implication of the word shadow. I have a shadow side. And so I decided to take it from a shamanistic point of view, meaning more of a natural world point of view. So, for example, if you were to go outside and see a tree, inevitably, at one point in the day, you're going to see a shadow. So it makes it a lot more, accepting so that we don't like fear it as this is the evilness within. And then I decided, well, let's see here. What are some taboo animals that people also get a little spooked of? Let's work with them because they understand the shadow. So I have a raven, which is really scary. You see them in scary movies. You can hear them in the background. And I have a snake, and that has that connotation of the deceiver. And then I bring in the owl, which looks so alien and has this like death little vibe around it in some cultures. And then the big bad wolf, of course, can't leave that out. And we get to walk through each of these in the medicine wheel, in a four-part medicine wheel, to be able to approach the shadow, to recognize the shadow, to understand the shadow, and to accept and embrace the shadow. And each one of these animals are going to be walking with each of us in this book. There's like a chapter dedicated to each of these animals, a guided meditation, and then journal prompts so that you can see, oh, what did you experience in that guided meditation, to draw up a little bit more about your customized beautiful shadow side.
I love that. And somehow I missed that they were the taboo animals. I missed it. I know. Sometimes I'm a little slow, but I get it. I do get it. I love that. I didn't really think about that. Yeah, the energy that they hold has this resonance. And it also, I think, too, brings a little bit of amusement, like, right? And a little joy to when we look at it that way and look at ourselves from that different perspective, because I think sometimes we can get way too critical, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So this question did come up, and I'm not exactly sure how this fits in, but you know what? In the Chinese New Year, it is the year of the snake, the wood snake.
That is just absolutely amazing. And, when I'm talking, and I love that you bring this up, because just because I'm working with, and I've introduced the raven and the snake and all of these, draw on all of your understanding of what these animals mean to you, to impart. And I just think it's brilliant that you picked up on the year of the snake and the wooden snake. And I'm just like, oh, I had no idea that was I don't know, perfectly timed spirit to have this book come out, in the year of the snake. And so anything and everything that you have an understanding about, like the snake maybe being wise or whatever it is, pull that in as well. This is something where animals open up a natural receptor within every walk of life, every religion, every spiritual path, every culture, to include, even like football games, we have animal totems, the
It's true.
Denver Broncos and all of those things. And so animals open up that natural receptor to make it more happy, more friendly, and more connectivity. So, yeah, the wooden snake, I love it. Draw it all in, all of that information.
Yeah, I agree. And I do think there is something to be said about this year being a year to look at the shadows, right?
Yeah.
I think some of that extreme is what we're being asked to look at so that we can bring light to some of this and help to release some of the shadow that people do want to shut down or not look at or not deal with. And then
Yeah.
there's the beauty of the transformation, shedding a skin that the snake brings.
See, you
Yeah.
already got it. That's exactly right. In the guided meditation, you approach a snake and they are blind because they're right about ready to shed, right?
Hmm.
What I
I didn't know
understand,
that.
a lot of snakes go blind. And so it is with us and our shadow. We go blind to it, right? And the snake shows us how to shed that oldness and come out brand new.
Yeah. A lot to learn. Yeah. Yeah, I do like the animal totems. My daughter and I actually draw cards every year, right at the beginning of the new year. We sit down and we talk about what last year's was and talk about what's going on. And then we both draw cards and we look at that. And, sometimes we forget during the year, but sometimes we come back to it. So I drew the bear. She drew the porcupine this year. Yeah. And it is interesting. I remember when she was younger, sometimes she wouldn't like what she drew. So we draw too, right? But
Sure,
I
you
think
get to
all
choose.
of them have something to show us and something that we can learn from, which is exactly kind of what the point is here too. Even when we don't like that part of the shadow part of us, we can bring light to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And this process that I wrote in kind of speaks to what if I don't like that part? That's why it's like recognizing and understanding where that part of you comes from. So the owl takes us through looking into the darkness of the unseen world within the shadow, and it actually shows us the diamonds and the jewels and a deeper understanding of where that part of us originated from, or we understand it more, and understanding it more makes it a little bit more likable.
It creates healing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely creates healing, bringing light to it, bringing it forward instead of stuffing it. I know when I was younger and growing up, it's like, oh, just get over it, right? Like it happened a long time ago. But then we just stuff it. And then we create all these other ailments that come with it, the mental chatter, the physical, right? But no, we can love ourselves about it, which is a beautiful part of when I talk about like the soul work. We go into the soul and we open up, and there is no judgment. This is the evolution of our soul.
Yes,
So when we work in the medicine wheel and we have the animal totems, we don't have to think about it from the intellect, as you're suggesting, right? We can
yes,
open up
that's
vision,
exactly,
color, imagination. How does this align? How does it not align? Yeah.
that's
And in the
exactly,
book, oh my gosh, you give so many tools. Back to your book, you give like feather meditations and using tools. And like you had already said, you give them prompts and guides and meditations and just recognizing where you are in this, even the great wheel, like what season are we in, that kind of thing. But you give so many great tools, crystals, you talk about chakras. Even, what I really love, because I've been talking about this too, is the consciousness, the brain patterns. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. And figuring out how a lot of times what you just said, like with the chatter and all of that, sometimes it's you just need to deep breathe and drop your brain patterns into a slower, rhythmic alpha state. And all of a sudden, your consciousness opens up and you're able to breathe in and mindfulness about breathing in. And so there is a lot of that every time we work with one of these four different totems in this book, I invite you to breathe in and do that consciousness and all of that. So, and yeah, it's packed full of information. And I also wanted to say that it is a complement to any path, even if you don't have a quote unquote labeled spiritual path or healing path or self discovery path or any of that, this complements it. It is really working with animals and this system. So you can like not even have any path at all and get with this work from A to Z, and or you can be a really evolved spiritual person who is just like, what else does my shadow want to show me, and be able to have this complement you on that path as well.
Yeah, and just kind of going back to what I said, sometimes we don't. We don't. I know I recently uncovered a part of me that, like, oh my gosh, right? But if I hold it in shame, I attract more shame. So it's like love that part and work with it. And some of it can be intense, but we have the tools, the meditations. And, I work with tapping EFT, like repatterning our mind. And we have the tools that make it so much more easier. And then the amusement of the animals. I mean, like, okay, how many times are you going to go find one of the animal totems? Like, how many times are you going to see a snake today now that we've talked about it, right? That kind of thing. And then we have amusement and depth in our life, helping us to get different perspectives. And like you said, I agree with the breathing too, because most of us as humans, like we have to help ourselves get out of that beta state and all that running around and all that judgment that we do have. And that's how we do need the tools. Yeah. Yeah. So what is
Absolutely.
your mission with the book?
Well, with the book, it really is to help people to be inspired, to be encouraged, to be empowered, to dive a little bit more deep into themselves, into their soul's expression, so that we can stand authentically together in a community.
Yeah. I stand with you on that for sure. Yeah. Embracing different practices, looking at different perspectives, walking that path in just a different way right now. We can't keep doing the same stuff. We know that. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly right. I was just watching your channel, and I just saw this morning where you're like, we all know the Einstein saying that, if you cannot fix a problem from the same state of where you were when you created it. And I think that that kind of flows in here too, that working with your shadow and finding the enlightenment due to working with your shadow, which is something you just got to experience, actually takes you to a higher state of consciousness so that we can have new ideas on how to solve whatever problems we're encountering. Yeah.
Yeah. We need different perspectives and working in color and light and Mother Earth, especially. She has so many messages. The elements, which is what the medicine wheel brings in, can help us approach it from different perspectives, which is what we need. I had an idea today and it's big, like it is, but there's a couple of different things that I do want to pull together. And I'm just kind of, that like dream state, and I look up and there goes a red cardinal. And 11:11 on my clock in the car. I kid you not. Right. I'd
Of
actually bought
course.
my car at 11:11, but right, and so this is like, okay, let's take a moment and let's take these signs and these clues, not from the intellect trying to talk us out of everything, right? But allow that to be
Yes.
a way to guide us. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that, a lot of times we are in our thinking mind, right? And our thinking mind can go, that chatter, it goes into confusing places sometimes. Sometimes it makes sense, but that's only like a part of us. What you're talking about and what I'm presenting to the world through the shamanism and your shadow is this expression between, like you said, the color, the sight, watching how the universe is talking to you on a day-to-day level, confirming, where you're at, these brand new ideas, the red cardinal 1111, watching those synchronicities that don't speak English or a certain left hemisphere brain talking mind chatter, and watch how much the universe, the divine, as it reveals itself to you, is communicating with you constantly.
Yeah. And it's uplifting and it's joyful and it makes me feel alive versus, you know what? Sometimes, and I know I'm not the only one that does this, wakes up in the morning in a little panic, like, oh, what's going to happen today? Right. It's so something I'm actually working on, but that lifts the energy when we can be in that energy and let it empower us to raise our vibration. Yeah. I hear you for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Great work. I'm very excited for you to bring this out. I think it's perfect timing that you're the snake and just talking about these totems. I think it's so perfect. Who would have thought that? But that is just awesome. Granddaughter Crow, I really think so. Where can we find you? Are you teaching? I know you always probably teach. What else is going on in your world?
Love it. Thank you for asking. So just remember Granddaughter Crow. You can find me at www.granddaughtercrow.com. I am moving and shaking, of course, with the release of this book. I'll be doing a lot of different things with that. You can always tune into, find out what I'm doing on my website. I also have a YouTube channel. I also have a podcast now
Mm.
and which is called Belief, Being, and Beyond. You can find it on my YouTube.
Belief,
Belief,
being,
Being, and Beyond.
yay.
Yeah,
Congratulations on
exactly.
that.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
thank you. And so, but there's so many, I think that the biggest thing that I'm doing right now is lighting a candle every night for the people. I don't necessarily have a lot of words because I don't have a lot of solutions, but I light a candle for the people. And that is a practice that I've been doing for over a year now. So, listeners, if you want to join me, go grab a bunch of tea light candles. If it's safe, of course, I want to honor and respect, any of the fires that are out of hand. But I just light it on my altar and I just say, here's a light in the middle of the darkness for any soul that is searching for it or wants to be a part of this. I pray for the people.
It's just beautiful. Yeah, it touched my heart to think that. And sometimes I hold a lot of presents for a lot of people and a lot of things. And yes, did I send out prayers this morning and Reiki? Yes, absolutely. And I think sometimes people don't realize like how powerful that can be. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that and know that there is somebody else out there that we can join this light together with. It's really beautiful. Yeah. And I did want to give Llewellyn a shout out, your publishers, for the book and for sending it to me and just bring them forward as well. Yeah. So I know we have talked about this, but as we go to close, I do like to come back and ask the question, how do you feel working through shamanism and with your shadow and this book that you're bringing out can help to empower the spirit right now?
Absolutely. And the beauty is that a lot of times, a lot of my books and classes and sessions are like, oh, everything is just so beautiful. Raise your consciousness, feel the love. And now this book is like, and by the way, let's deal with the dark night of the soul. And it's not going to be as scary as you think because we're walking through it with the natural world in the medicine wheel. And it feels like I am doing a little bit of my part of helping people to deal with their darkness within without being ashamed or blame or confused or scared and just kind of work through this book.
Yeah. Yeah. Opening up, letting go, working with those parts of us. It's not going to be that scary and hard once we move through, like you said. We have so much to learn with Mother Earth and with our natural world. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, all the
Absolutely.
best of luck with the book. I'm very excited. Thank you for reaching out again. It's so good to have you back to your spirit. Thank you.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Yes, you can open up to your shadows with grace, with ease, to free the struggles and old patterns, finding different methods, different ways, and letting life's symbols reflect back to you the magic of your soul. Create the great circle around you, call in your spirit, open up to the greater spirit to receive the messages of your soul right now. I'll have all the links for Granddaughter Crow in the show notes. And reach out for an energy session. I offer private mentoring. And if you're in the local area, I'll be offering my next Reiki 1 certification class in February. Check out my website for all the latest information or find me on Instagram and now even on YouTube. Taking a deep inhale and exhale, just closing the energy. Thank you so much for listening. I am your host, Terry Ann Hyman. to your spirit. Namaste.